All right, guys, welcome back to another Master and Apprentice video and podcast. As you guys can see from the title, we've got some pretty interesting news to talk about. Now, whether you're a fan of the Acolyte or not, this is big news for all kinds of reasons, as we'll get into the end. Not just because of the show, but because of the implications it has on Lucasfilm and Disney as a whole. And it's something we've been kind of talking about with like the D23 and all of the projects that were kind of announced and released, and the lack of for Lucasfilm. And I think this is really impacting that, and this is kind of an outcome because of that. So we're going to be talking about an article that's on the Bespin Bulletin. This article is actually, I found it in a couple different places, but the one we're reading from is reported from the Bespin Bulletin. You can kind of find this from a couple different sources. This broke a couple days ago, so we're not even the first to this news, but it is big news altogether. So I'm going to start it from the top, and we'll go over it at the end. Deadline are exclusively reporting that the Acolyte, the live-action Star Wars series from Leslie Headland, has been canceled by Disney and Lucasfilm after just one season, following Deadline's report. The Hollywood Reporter and Variety also confirmed the news of the series cancellation. None of these trades specified as to what led to the Acolyte's cancellation, but alluded to low viewership numbers for the series. The Acolyte started off reasonably well in terms of viewership, but viewership dwindled each week, and eventually the series failed to enter the Nielsen Top 10 Streaming Originals chart, and it failed to enter from episode 4 to episode 7, and only re-entering the chart with a season finale. The Acolyte finale entered the Nielsen's Top 10 Streaming Originals chart with 335 million minutes watched. The Disney and Netflix method for views is to divide the minutes watched by the episode's runtime. This gave the Acolyte finale about 7 million views, not unique viewers. The season finale of Andor Season 1 also reached 7 million views. Based off of Nielsen data and implementing the Netflix and Disney method, however, Andor never dropped out of the Nielsen Top 10 Streaming Originals chart. The Acolyte did 4 straight weeks due to low viewership. Andor Season 1 was also critically acclaimed, garnering high praise from critics and picking up various awards and nominations, including at the prestigious Peabody Award. Andor, as mentioned, suffered from low viewership, and cuts were seemingly made, with the series possibly due to the fact that Andor was initially planned for 5 seasons, with each season taking place in one of 5 years before Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. Eventually, the plan was cut down to 3 seasons after Season 1 wrapped, and eventually cut down to 2 seasons following the Season 1's release, with the second and final season taking place over the course of the 4 years. The creator of The Acolyte warned fans before the series debuted that a second season was dependent on viewership and reception. Heather was eager to get a second season and continue her story, and had a series Bible that would cover at least 2 seasons of The Acolyte. Both of the viewership and reception were disappointing. The Acolyte had a second lowest critic score on Rotten Tomatoes at 78%, with a dismal audience score of just 18%. The lowest audience score for a live-action Star Wars series. The lowest critic score is held by Boba Fett at 66% and has a Rotten audience score of 49%. The second lowest audience score of any live-action Star Wars series. It was just recently said by Tamara Morrison, Boba Fett himself, that the reception of Boba Fett impacted the future of the character, and the character had been put on the shelf for a little while. And pretty much it's just talking about, the series itself. Right here you can see these are just like the big shows. This is not anime. This is the live action Rotten Tomato rating. Andor, 96% critics, 87% audience. So that's really good. Ahsoka, 86% critics, 64% audience. Obi-Wan Kenobi, 82% critic, 61% audience. The Acolyte, 78% critic, 18% audience. And the Boba Fett, 66% critic and 49% audience. So there you guys have it. I think the biggest thing is the audience review, Rotten Tomato rating, because that's what really matters. I'm not saying the critics don't matter. That definitely does impact it. And honestly, I would probably agree with those critic scores. I would almost even reasonably put the Acolyte above Kenobi. It's similar in a show that stands by itself. I could almost say the Acolyte's better though, but it's not good nonetheless. And the critic score is still low, right? The audience score is abysmal, and then the viewership is also abysmal, and all these things impacting it. I mean, it's a good thing they're not getting a season 2. Not because a season 2 would be bad and fans don't want it per se. I mean, I know a lot of fans don't want it, but I'm sure there's a lot of fans who do. And for the ones who do, this kind of sucks for them. But this does show some sort of reception on Disney's part. It does show that they're receiving the information and they understand this is not working. We can't do this. And I think even more important, they've said a couple of times now that, a season 2 was dependent on how the first season does. They said it with Kenobi. They said it with Book of Boba Fett. They said it with Mandalorian. Mandalorian, they more or less said if season 3 does bad, who knows how many more seasons we'll get. They didn't say we're only getting next season if this season does good. But they did say something similar in that ballpark. And we haven't really had anything kind of outright canceled yet. I mean, we did kind of have the Andor seasons that we knew we were going to be getting, like 5 seasons, and then they said 3, cut down to 2, but we're still getting a season 2. And while I didn't get a lot of views, I agree. The critical score and audience score is relatively high. It should be getting some sort of season 2 at the very least. It deserves that because fans liked it. Unfortunately, not a lot of fans watched it, but the fans who did loved it. Acolyte doesn't have either. The fans who watched it didn't like it, and not a lot of fans watched it. So that's really unfortunate for it. I think this is unfortunate for a lot of the actors and actresses involved, a lot of the fans who were excited for a season 2, but it's fortunate for Star Wars and Lucasfilm fans. We saw with Marvel is finally starting to turn a page into a better chapter, but it started with that page turning when they understood that fans don't want all these Disney Plus shows just pumped out. They want quality over quantity, and Marvel had to cancel and put a lot of shows on hold to stop this streamline of production and finally put some quantity over quality. And I think Star Wars is going to start doing that. Hopefully, this is hopefully a telltale sign of that, is what I'm kind of getting out of it.
Yeah, and when you look at these numbers, you kind of can understand where they're coming from. People didn't like things about Ahsoka, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Book of Boba Fett, but those had extremely well-liked characters to start with, so the audience score was higher. The Acolyte, people didn't like it, and no one had skin in the game. There was no character that someone liked that's going to bring it out and make people love it anyways. So that took that down too. It does show a good step in the right direction with Disney deciding to cancel this project, because if you look at the audience scores in these, this is obviously by a landslide the worst one that they've put out of these live-action Disney Plus shows. So them getting some reception, because it seems like the fans have been disconnected from Disney upper management, Star Wars upper management for the past couple of years. So them getting something like this to where no one really, for the most part, a lot of fans did not like this, to them deciding to not do the second season, it shows that they have some connection finally, and that's something good to see.
And I think I often misspoke. The fans don't have a disconnection. Upper management has a disconnection. The fans know what the fans want. Sometimes, sure, fans are just going to dog on things just to dog on it. That's part of being a critic sometimes, is you just critique things that don't really matter. But, I mean, the first Disney Plus project that came out, Loki Season 1 and The Mandalorian Season 1, those are some of the best stuff so far. And fans have wanted more stuff like that. And Marvel is starting to turn a page, right? But Star Wars hasn't the last year. And hopefully we're going to see this make a turn page for Lucasfilm and start turning quantity over quality. You know, we've got Skeleton Crew coming out at the end of this year. We'll see how that turns out. I'm sure there's a lot riding on that show too, right? I don't know about anything confirmed for season 2 or 3 or anything like that. But I know they certainly won't get anything like that if that also bombs. I think we're going to start seeing a similar pattern with this. If shows start to bomb, I think they're going to start getting canceled, which is a good thing because that means people don't want it per se. And, you know, you never know. Maybe eventually another studio or company buys Lucasfilm and they can put their own spin on it and make it a little bit better, you know, like they did with Clone Wars Season 7. But that's a long ways out, and there's a lot that happens in between there. So as of now, this is good / bad news, depends on how you look at it. So with all that, hope you guys did enjoy this video and podcast. If you guys are listening on podcast, don't forget to hit that follow and download. And if you guys are listening and watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. And we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.